And trust me when I say this, you don't want to miss what's coming. This isn't just another story you'll half listen to while scrolling your phone. This is the kind of story that settles into your chest, the kind that lingers long after the screen goes dark. So stay with me, all the way through, because every moment matters. Every detail has weight, and somewhere in this story, you might just recognize a part of yourself. My name is Ava Rowan. I'm 30 years old, and what I'm about to share is not something I ever imagined saying out loud, let alone telling the world. This isn't a casual confession. It's not something you bring up over coffee or laugh about with friends. This is the kind of truth that reshapes you. The kind that forces you to sit with yourself in silence and confront parts of your identity you thought you had already figured out. It's a story about choices, some quiet, some reckless. It's about loneliness, the kind that doesn't scream, but suffocates slowly. It's about desire, the kind that doesn't ask for permission. And most of all, it's about honesty, the kind that can dismantle everything you've built. This is the story of how I became someone I never thought I would be. For most of my 20s, I believed I had life mapped out perfectly. I genuinely thought happiness was something you could design, like a blueprint you carefully follow. You pick the right partner, build a stable home, create predictable routines, and everything falls into place. At least, that's what I told myself. I thought maturity meant calm. I thought success meant consistency. I thought a good life was one without chaos. No sharp edges, no emotional storms, no unpredictability. And for a while it worked. Or maybe I just got really good at convincing myself it did. I married Ethan Hale, my college sweetheart. The man I had grown up with. The man who knew my past, my habits, my favorite coffee order. He was the kind of person everyone trusted instantly. Gentle. Reliable. Quietly strong. Ethan wasn't the type to chase excitement. He didn't thrive on spontaneity. He believed in preparation, in security, in building a life that felt safe and grounded. He approached everything, our relationship included, with careful thought. Our home reflected that perfectly. Everything had its place. Everything made sense. It was clean, organized, structured. The kind of house you'd see in a magazine, and assume belonged to a couple who had everything figured out early in life. From the outside, we were that couple. The ones people admired. The ones others pointed to and said, they're lucky. But here's something I didn't understand back then. Sometimes things look perfect not because they're thriving, but because nothing inside them moves. And that was us. Stillness disguised as peace. Routine pretending to be happiness. I can't tell you the exact moment things began to change. There wasn't a dramatic turning point. No explosive argument. No obvious fracture. It was quieter than that. Maybe it started with the evenings when Ethan sat beside me on the couch, his attention buried in his laptop, barely hearing the words I said. Or maybe it was the mornings when our conversations turned into checklists. What time is your appointment? Did you call the plumber? Don't forget the dry cleaning. We stopped talking about dreams. We stopped imagining the future. We stopped asking each other questions that mattered. We shared space, but not presence. A bed, but not a world. And I told myself it was normal. I told myself this is what marriage becomes. That passion fades. That curiosity settles. That the electric, breathless feeling you have at the beginning eventually quiets down into something calmer. But what I didn't expect was the loneliness. Not loud loneliness. Not the kind that makes you cry in public or break down in dramatic ways. No, this was quieter. Heavier. It was the kind of loneliness that builds slowly, like dust collecting on surfaces you stop noticing. Day by day, it layered itself over my life until everything felt muted. I wasn't disappearing physically. I was disappearing internally. My sense of self. My energy. My identity. I felt like I was fading into a version of myself that functioned, but didn't feel. And the worst part? I couldn't even fully explain what I was missing. I just knew something inside me wasn't alive anymore. And then everything shifted. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But enough to change everything. His name was Luca. And calling him a mistake isn't about who he is. It's about what I allowed myself to become in his presence. Luca wasn't a stranger. He had always been there, orbiting our lives in a way that felt natural and unquestioned. He was Ethan's closest friend since childhood. Practically family. He was the guy who showed up when something broke. The one who stayed for dinner without needing an invitation. The one who filled rooms with energy, laughter, stories that somehow made everyone feel included. For years I barely noticed him. He was just there. Comfortable. Familiar. Safe in the background of my life. Until one day, I noticed everything. Where Ethan was careful, Luca was instinctive. Where Ethan planned, Luca adapted. Where Ethan hesitated, Luca moved. There was something unfiltered about him. Something alive. His hands carried the roughness of someone who worked with them. His laughter wasn't restrained, it filled space. And when he spoke to you, really spoke, it felt like you were the only person in the room. I didn't intend to notice him. I didn't intend to feel anything. But the most dangerous beginnings don't feel dangerous at all. They feel harmless. It started with something small, a loose kitchen shelf. Luca came over to fix it. I handed him a glass of iced tea, expecting a quick repair and polite conversation. But instead, he asked me something no one had asked in a long time. Ava, how have you been? Not what needs fixing. Not what's on the to-do list. But me. I didn't know how to answer. Because I hadn't asked myself that question in months, maybe longer. And somehow, that simple moment opened something. We talked. Longer than we should have. About things I had buried. Dreams I had stopped acknowledging. Fears I didn't even realize I was carrying. And Luca listened. Not casually. Not distractedly. He listened like my words mattered. Like I mattered. And something in me woke up. It felt like layers of numbness were peeling away, one conversation at a time. I felt present. Engaged. Alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. And that terrified me. Because I knew. I should have stopped. Right there. But I didn't. The night everything changed didn't look special on the surface. Ethan was working late. Luca came over to fix a small plumbing issue. We talked, like we always had started to. Laughed. Shared stories. At one point, I handed him a glass of water. Our fingers brushed. Just a second. Barely contact. But something shifted. The air felt different. Charged sharper. His expression changed. The laughter faded, replaced by something quieter. Something unspoken. We looked at each other. And in that moment, everything became clear. Not in words. Not logically. But emotionally. Something had crossed an invisible line. And once you feel something like that, you can't unfeel it. After that, everything changed, even the silence. Being around Ethan started to feel heavier. Not because he had done anything wrong, but because I carried something unspoken inside me. Guilt doesn't wait for actions. It begins with intention. With curiosity. With the moment your heart leans somewhere it shouldn't. I told myself to stop. But the more I resisted, the deeper I sank. And eventually, everything reached a breaking point. Ethan left for a 3-day work trip. Luca came over again. Maybe it was to fix something. Maybe it was just an excuse. We both knew. The conversation felt easy. Too easy. The laughter came naturally. But when it faded, something else took its place. Attention. A pull. A question neither of us said out loud. He looked at me differently. And before I could think, before I could stop myself, I leaned in. The kiss wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Hesitant. But it was real. And in that moment, everything shifted permanently. What followed wasn't just physical. It was emotional, mental, consuming. Life became a blur of stolen moments, hidden glances, feelings I couldn't contain. I would wake up next to Ethan, guilt wrapping around me like a shadow. And yet, every time Luca entered a room, something inside me ignited. It wasn't just desire. It was connection. He saw me in ways I had forgotten how to see myself. And that forced me to ask questions I had avoided for years. Was I truly happy? Was my marriage enough? Had I slowly settled into a life that felt safe, but empty? One afternoon changed everything. Ethan was out. Luca came over again. We told ourselves it was for something practical. It wasn't. Hours passed in conversation, laughter, unspoken tension. And then, I stopped holding back. That moment broke whatever illusion I had left. The next morning, I woke up with a weight I couldn't ignore. I had crossed a line that couldn't be erased. And for the first time, I understood the cost of my choices. I couldn't keep pretending. So I told Ethan. Sitting across from him, my hands shaking, my voice barely steady. I need to tell you something. The silence that followed felt endless. And when I finally spoke the truth, everything changed. Not instantly, not dramatically, but deeply, painfully. The weeks that followed were complicated.